Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring my art channel. Hello everyone, this is Cosmic Spectrum. Welcome back to my art studio, and I'm here with my monthly update in regards to my dream comic project, which is called Gloamingvale. It's an original story written and illustrated by me, and I'm just showing you guys the inking process for the second couple of pages in the first chapter, which has recently been completed and is now being released on the website, like the official comic website, which is gloamingvale.com, so you can check that out. And if you want to read ahead, you can always find my Patreon, which happens to be 10 pages ahead of schedule. So I'm here to give you guys a quick update on where I'm at and how things are going. So there's some good things and some not so great things, but I just want to keep it real and give you guys like a realistic view of how something like this goes. I guess it's different for everyone, and if I were to place myself into a category of like disciplined versus undisciplined, I think I would probably be somewhere in the middle. I think maybe I have gotten a lot better over the years, but it used to be very, very difficult for me to get anything done back in the day. It's gotten a lot better, but yeah, so I'm working with some resistance that constantly pops up, and my most recent challenge is the fact that I was really, really hoping to jump straight into storyboarding and essentially working on the production of the second chapter as soon as I was done with the first chapter, with like a small break in between. So my small break in between was a little trip. It was like a long weekend trip that I took with my husband. And then when I was back, I was hoping to just kind of jump straight into it, but I had to find out the hard way that unfortunately it wasn't as simple as I thought. So this is kind of like the same, it's like stepping into the same pile of crap over and over again, honestly, for me. And that pile of crap, it happens to be just severely overestimating how long things take, what kind of work goes into things, and also just being impatient. I feel like I never really looked at it from the impatience or / patience angle before, but I do think that it is actually a pretty big problem for me. I'm starting to notice, not necessarily while working, like I don't get impatient and cut corners or anything like that, but I do feel very impatient about reaching the bigger goals when it comes to this project, because it's so huge that I have to break it up into a million steps. And even something like finishing the first chapter was just kind of a gargantuan task that thankfully I have managed to complete. So now I can adjust my timelines and my expectations slightly. But as soon as I tried jumping into doing storyboards for chapter 2, I ran into a few like psychological problems, but also just my like the fact that I forgot a bunch of steps that are supposed to go in between, like simply working on the previous chapter and then jumping into the next one. So the prep stage is what I totally neglected, and I seem to have forgotten how much work actually needs to get put into the prep stage. And my impatience basically kind of stopped me in my tracks, or like my lack of preparedness, I guess, stopped me in my tracks, because after struggling for a little bit and procrastinating for a little bit, once I actually jumped into thumbnailing the pages for the second chapter, I realized that I literally can't even do it without a certain amount of preparation. So like one of the things that I totally forgot about was the importance of floor plans, you guys. It was one of those things where, you know, I had like some sort of rough layout that was very quick and easy for the funeral scene and a couple of the other scenes where things take place in one room or like one single space, where I just kind of didn't even think about it. So I assumed that I could go into the script and just storyboard things out roughly, like thumbnail every panel. But I immediately ran into a problem because at the very beginning of the second chapter, characters essentially like move through a house, so they're not already there. They arrive at a house and they go into different places, and then like as soon as I sketched out a rough thumbnail that is basically like the establishing scene for the house, I immediately realized that I can't even go any further because I have no idea what the house looks like on the inside, like in a specific way. And I realized that it's not something that I can fill in the blanks later, because there are quite a few things that can definitely be figured out along the way, especially like minute details. But typically I will figure out a lot of smaller things in the layout sketching process, so like after all the thumbnails are complete. But in this particular case, even though I put in some time looking for houses, like looking for inspiration, I obviously didn't go as far as to design any floor plans, and unfortunately, like, I wasn't able to storyboard, so I had to give up on that. And then I had to, and you know what, having a stumbling block like that just can really put me so far off doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I understand that I have to treat it like a job, and it's just like another one of those tasks that I have to complete, but I'm sure a lot of you can relate to the perspective where, you know, the things you love about comics is like drawing characters, drawing facial expressions, and like the last thing you want to do is figure out some freaking floor plans for a house. Like, my god, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's a pretty tedious and boring task, to be completely honest. And obviously I don't really even know how to do it correctly. I just do it haphazardly and just kind of hope that it'll work out. So let me take a quick minute to tell you about Squarespace, my sponsor and the #1 platform for building my websites. I used to be super weary of making a website due to frustration with technology and just feeling lost, and frankly, just being too lazy to figure it out. And thankfully, Squarespace has proved to be the perfect solution to all of that because of how easy and straightforward their website engine is to use. They have an amazing dynamic website building platform that can generate a website according to your specific needs, or you can just use one of the many pre-built templates and customize them to get the perfect website for you. The customization is honestly amazing, and you can make your website as elaborate as you want. Squarespace also allows you to have all the business options like a shop or a paid community available to you down the line whenever you need them. It's an absolute must to have a nice website showcasing your work if you want to be a full-time professional artist, so it's best to get started as soon as you can, which you can do for free. So once you build your dream website and are ready to show it to the world, head to squarespace.com/cosmicspectrumart to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Happy website building, and now back to the video. So that's kind of where I've stagnated a little bit, and then I've also been going through a bunch of stuff like in my personal life, just a little bit, like just stuff that I have to deal with a bunch of appointments, and like, I don't know, I don't want to get into it, but there's been a lot of stuff that's made me lose track of my schedule. So I kind of lost my routine, and it always astonishes me how long it takes to reestablish a daily routine after having lost it because of some random circumstances. So one of my biggest like things that I've been trying to do and unfortunately failing at was just reestablishing a daily routine that really works for me and keeps me productive. One of the things that for sure has been like killing my ability to work efficiently and feel like normal about it, or like at least feel content with what I'm doing, is just the fact that I stopped going to the gym for a couple of weeks, or even like a week. And then after that, I think it was a couple of weeks actually, and after that I made a couple of feeble attempts where maybe I went like twice or once, and there were always like a million excuses. And now I'm at a point where it's just so hard to fight the laziness, and I know 100% that not going to the gym is one of the biggest contributors to my bad mood. Like, of all the things that I've ever done in my life, in order to try and regulate my mood. If there are no external circumstances that are specifically causing me to like feel stressed out, which is the case right now for the most part, it's just going to the gym, like staying active and moving and like getting that blood flow. That's like one of the most important things in order to create some sort of enthusiasm. Like usually when I do cardio especially, I feel like I want to do things and I want to get things done afterwards. So I have to stop being lazy and like reestablish my gym routine. That's one of my current priorities. And so yeah, like that all kind of feeds into the mindset issues. Like as soon as, you know, it's kind of crazy how like as soon as the smallest thing goes wrong, it just almost opens up the space for all these negative thoughts to come back in, like being unsure about like what I'm doing, or being unsure about how successful what I'm doing is going to be, and just like feeling so much pressure to succeed and all these other things. But at the end of the day, like I fully understand that all I have to do is just do the work, and that's all I've ever had to do, and that's all I ever can do, because everything else is unpredictable. And so there's that. And one of the things that I noticed is that I don't know if it's sustainable in the long term for me to like only work on the comic, because I really feel like I really felt the mental like I felt like I was starting to sort of approach burnout, because in the couple of weeks where I didn't really get to make much progress with the storyboards at all, I did do a lot of other things that are related to the comic. Like I worked on the website, and I actually did quite a bit of work on the script. So that's another thing that I wanted to briefly talk to you guys about, like give you an update on how my script writing is going. So with the website, I decided to just kind of pre-upload everything and hook everything up and fix as many things as I can. And also another thing that I probably mentioned already a couple of times was reintroducing the comment section, or like introducing a comment section for every single new page upload that I do from now on, because that's like one of the most important thing for me to keep going and like to keep motivated and all that. So thank God I was able to do that. And there were like a bunch of technical difficulties, and so it literally took me like 2 weeks to finally sort it out with the technical team, because something was like not working on the back end, and I wasn't even 100% sure how the widget that I found and installed like works exactly. But thankfully at this point I think I have figured it out, and I think it shouldn't be a problem going forward. So I am actually in a lot of ways really excited for this current like development, where I'm posting pages again, and I have the comment section ready, and I will finally be getting some feedback with every upload. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for. And I also prepared a lot of Instagram posts so that I can post about my comic. Like it's super helpful for me personally to have a lot of posts prepared and ready to go, that I know I put effort into cropping properly and like thinking about and designing sort of for you guys, so that they're not random and like super spontaneous. I used to make a lot more spontaneous posts, but I feel like these days, especially with the digital comic, I'm not so good at doing that, and I want the posts to look good visually on the grid. So preparing them ahead of time, I think, really kind of helps me. And I am planning to do, or I'm hoping to do, some spontaneous artwork now and then while I'm working on the second chapter, because I think it's a little bit too mentally difficult to only focus on one thing without doing anything else that's different whatsoever. And so as you guys probably noticed, my last video was finally another sketchbook page, which is something I haven't done in such a long time, and it was so cathartic for me to draw my sketchbook again. So I kind of want to bring that back a little bit, just a little. Like I don't want it to take over or anything, and I know that I have to be very careful about reintroducing other things to make sure that I don't start using other things as an excuse to like put off working on my comic and just like extending the timeline. But speaking of the timeline, so that's one thing that has basically had me the most like nervous and disappointed, I guess. I really wanted to, and still kind of do, I want to run a Kickstarter for the first volume of Gloamingvale in October. One of the biggest reasons why I want to do this is because I totally understand that a lot of people don't really like reading one page at a time. And honestly, like, I relate. I am definitely one of those people, and I am definitely one of the people that prefer a physical product. Like, I want to buy a full book so I can enjoy it and like look at it as many times as I want. And so that's super important to me to deliver, is the first physical product in the book format. And the problem is that I want to, like, I don't want to go down the floppy road, like little floppies of one chapter at a time or something, because I feel like I just don't like those myself, honestly. I used to buy some of those floppies of certain comics that I used to read back in the day, and I just never look at them again, and I don't like seeing a million ads in them. Not that I would put ads myself personally, but still, there's just something about that format that's kind of cheap, and like the paper is too thin, and I feel like it's too disposable. So for sure, I want the first comic to be relatively substantial, but it's not going to be like this gigantic tome either, obviously. And there is definitely like a good middle for me, which I've discovered through the years because I have self-published many times before. So about like right under 100 pages, like maybe around 80 pages, basically anywhere from like 64 to 100 pages is where the good middle is. I mean, the paper depends on it a little bit, but I'm talking about weight here, like purely going by weight. And I want to make it a hardcover as well, and like staying under a certain weight just makes my life easier, because shipping books is very difficult, and I actually don't even know how to attempt to ship thicker, bigger books because they're so much heavier and so much more expensive, and I don't want to, like, it's just a complicated process. So I have to stick with certain parameters, which is why I figured out roughly how many pages I'm gonna need to make this first book happen, and it basically amounts to the first 2 chapters plus prologue, which will put me at about, like, I'm assuming it's gonna be like 70 pages or so, like maybe 75 or something, and then there'll be probably a little bit of like a handful of extras, which will put me at a good page count. That is the plan. But yeah, I am now starting to worry because I want all the contents of the book to be done before I run the Kickstarter, but I obviously also need a little bit of time to prepare. Well, actually, I need like a decent amount of time to prepare for the Kickstarter itself, probably around a month. If I have to rush, probably like a few weeks at least. And on top of that, I also have to have some time to design the cover and get a sample. And then once I start thinking about all these little steps, I start to feel very overwhelmed about the timeline, because it really doesn't sound like I have nearly as much time as I thought. And I think that working on the chapter itself, the second chapter, which is my current like priority goal, is going to take at least a couple of months. And that's why I felt so much disappointment at the fact that I can't just like, you know, do it super quickly and just be on top of it. And I don't know, like all these little micro things like the floor plan, you know, it's kind of like when you're so frustrated about the big picture that when you run into some sort of small obstacle, it almost like takes you out for a short amount of time, just because you realize how many other tiny obstacles there are going to be, and how, I guess, it's like coming to terms with the fact that my timeline may be unrealistic. And at the end of the day, I get it. Like, it is kind of arbitrary. I just set an arbitrary month because I like the month of October. It's like one of my favorite months of the year, and that's why I wanted to run in October. But yeah, I'm thinking that I might have to just push it forward. And, you know, there are some restrictions that come with that as well. Like, from a business standpoint, I know that running a Kickstarter in December, January, or February is really not a good idea, and I really don't want to push it all the way up until next spring. So basically that leaves me with just one option, which is to really work hard, like really hard, and run it in November, because I think November, like I think launching at the very end of October is not such a bad idea, and essentially running it throughout November is my best bet, because other than, like, if I don't do it then I will have to do it in the spring, because, you know, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot by running a Kickstarter during a month that's statistically really bad for Kickstarters. So that's where I'm at, you guys. I'm like kind of mired in all these micro steps, and I find 3D models sometimes, but for something like this, like, it's very tough to find a specific model that I'm looking for, and then coming up with what I need and asking somebody else to make a model just prolongs the whole thing, where I can't jump into the storyboards, and thus the frustration continues. So I'm gonna see what I can do to get away without a 3D model for now, because I think it's possible, but yeah, like, I'm not sure. Basically, I took a little break to fulfill my YouTube schedule to make these couple of videos this month, try something a little bit more relaxing, which was the sketchbook page that I did, and also like work on important stuff. Oh, like the technical stuff in the background, like the website and the comment section and all the other stuff that I mentioned. But yeah, okay, I just realized that I actually didn't even talk about the script at all, but that is actually a major thing that I spent quite a bit of time on in the past few weeks as well, and I was very happy with the amount of stuff, like questions that I managed to resolve, and I basically have the script kind of complete for the first 4 chapters. I think I've mentioned that before, but half of that was in point form. When I went back and finally like reread everything, organized a bunch of information, and went over the current state of the script, I realized that chapter 3 is it was only half done, and then chapter 4 was completely point form, and after that I had like disorganized point form that's not even divided into chapters. So I put in quite a bit of work to actually point form up to chapter 6, like up to the end of the chapter 6, I think, and I wrote out the script for up till the end of chapter 4, and I feel like I'm in a very good place, because one of my first major story goals, like story plot points, was finally hit at the end of chapter 3 / in chapter 4. So that's very exciting. The story is finally gonna like get going around that time, and I feel like I'm kind of getting close to there anyways, and everything that's happening in the first couple of chapters is obviously very important, I think. So I think overall I'm in a pretty good position. I'm happy to give you guys this update. Even just talking about it made me feel kind of more at ease about it, because I've been very stressed out about the fact that I'm really not hitting any of my timeline goals properly. But I'm gonna try my best to just get back on schedule, and I'm thinking that in the interest of running the Kickstarter, maybe if worst comes to worst and I'm not 100% done, I think I might just run the Kickstarter and then take another month or something to complete whatever I might have not completed yet, and place the order for the book then, because I think it's more important for me to run the Kickstarter in November rather than push it off, and like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll have to do some finagling with the work, but I'll do my best, and hopefully things will go according to plan. And these monthly updates have actually been helping me quite a bit when it comes to organization. So obviously I'm going to continue to give you guys the rundown on how it's going and what I've been up to. And as always, like, please let me know if you want to know anything in particular, or if you have any questions about like how I go about writing, because I would love to, you know, continue making videos like this that are relevant to the comic, and where I can share some useful information with you guys. So thank you so much for continuing to watch my channel, and if you read the comic, thank you for that. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you'll leave a comment and let me know what you think. And if you have never subscribed to this channel, please consider doing that and turning on notifications so that you don't miss my future videos. So yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!